Call to order. Mr. Sharretts, can you call the roll?
Of course. Mr. Pollock,
Here.
Mr. Lake. Here. Dr. Foy.
Here.
Dr. Postic is not here, and then Ms. Tomasco.
We'll have a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public comment for, I'm sorry, agenda? Consider approving the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? It's unanimous. The agenda is approved. Public comment for agenda items only. Hearing none. Minutes. Consider approving the minutes from the January 5, 2023 meeting. We have a motion. Second. The motion is approved. We approved the minutes. Oh, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, we approve. Reports, item 7, Public Works, Mr. Sharretts.
Sure. So during the month of January, Public Works spent a little over 250 hours worth of labor in the park system. A lot of that was working on some brush clearing, tree trimming, those kind of landscaping projects, which are actually very good to do during the winter months. 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the week, we visited each park and did an inspection, trash pickup, cleaning, those kind of things. Specifically at Brookside Park, during the month of January, we installed 2 of the new mirrors on the playground set that had come in. We had ordered them back about 6 months ago. They finally came in, we installed them. We actually also were able to install the new dinosaur toy, the climb on dinosaur toy. It's identical to the one that was there, other than the fact that the one that was there had a crack in it. So we replaced that, got that installed. We also, over at Newby Park, installed a mirror on the playground set where the one had been vandalized about 6 months ago. We've been looking to do some work at the basketball court at Newby Park. So we've been getting estimates on replacing the 2 backboards, again, within budget for maintenance. They have been very high based on the age of the pole itself. The poles are in perfect shape. It's just a question of getting the parts that go onto those poles. So right now we're looking at the possibility of taking them down, sanding them, using a urethane and some other things, and putting them back up and doing it in-house. Again, just to freshen them up. I'm also scheduled to be meeting tomorrow with a company that does restriping and resurfacing of them. Again, we're not looking to do a major capital project at Newby Park, but we want to clean it up as best we can. So we're looking to get that recoated and restriped, depending on what the proposal comes in. We'll talk about the shades at Brookside Park later in the agenda. We'll go into detail there. I guess the last thing is I am looking at doing another goose deterrent project down at Drexel Lodge Park this year in advance of the activities that take place there. Again, it's just a question of humanely discouraging them from hanging out there. So we did that about 3 months last year. They left, they nested elsewhere. And, eventually they gradually start coming back again. So we're getting geese there again. We want to deter them from setting up shop prior to the concerts and the main use of the park there.
They are showing back up now?
They are gradually showing back up. Yeah, right now we've got maybe 6 or 7 of them hanging out there. We know as they fly back, they'll start showing up. So again, they just get deterred from being there. They fly elsewhere, they set up shop there, and then we're usually good through this summer at least. That is my report.
Can I ask here, Rear Park, East, because we're not on the agenda. So that's new business. Yes. New business, discussion and possible action regarding a chalk art event at Newby Park in April of this year. Caitlin, have you reached out to, I can't remember that woman's name.
No, I didn't. I shot yet because I wasn't sure if we were. What her availability is.
Yeah, and I think we're talking, April, it's not much planning or anything else.
No,
So,
there's not a lot of, it can be a
right.
quick turn.
Is it something we want to do? I'm not sure.
It was very nice last year.
You were there. It was great. Pretty good turnout. Didn't you think so, George?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was a great event for that park.
Along with the police, with Boya, the dog.
Yes.
We had it from 12 to 3 last April on a Sunday. And the reason for that was thinking that Saturday might be sort of a big softball, baseball and sports
Right,
day.
and there were some people who were a little upset that it was a Sunday and not a Saturday because religious, I beliefs, I guess.
We could try, that's good information because I didn't hear that.
There was only 1 or 2 people that said something, so, and everyone else was there, so I just wanted to make sure everybody's heard.
We could try it for a Saturday. This
The
year.
Sunday worked, so
We had a really good time.
it was, yeah. I mean, we sold out of free pretzels, so, yeah.
Finished all the water ice.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So I'll reach out. I was just thinking, because it really wasn't on my mind last year and it worked out with weather, but like for the chalk art, you really can't do that in the rain. So
No,
would we have like a,
rain date the next Sunday.
yeah, just
Perhaps.
because just being aware of with the funding for these entertainment, whether it's face painting or chalk art, or they're paid rain or shine. So just thoughtful of.
Well, hopefully if she'll accept the rain date, then it'll be,
I'll ask her.
okay.
Yeah.
And if not, we can probably find another artist. I have friends who do chalk art, but they're not artists, and I'm sure they would help.
That sounds good. I'll reach out. So a Sunday in April, that is good for everyone.
I might mention, if you're concerned about, if you got some concern about church folks, probably if you started at 1 o'clock, you would probably have missed most service, church service issues if you wanted to do that. If that's I don't know how big that concern was. I know I had heard several comments about it as well. I think if you started at 1 o'clock, you probably could avoid some of that. And
Right, for those children that are going to church, it might be better if we did move it up.
That's great. I would like to be inclusive of all community members.
Yeah.
So 1 o'clock start would be great. Obviously not Easter weekend. I'm just trying to see if there's
Right.
any other.
And so
that's the
April
9th.
15th is going to be DCVA cleanup
Mhm.
at Brookside and Greer. And March 25th will be CRC cleanup at Drexel Lodge Park.
Can you say those dates one more?
What about April 2nd? Do you think that's too, I think the weather?
Do you have anything going on, George? Does the township have any activities?
Nothing comes to mind for that early in April, no.
When is the creek cleanup?
The
It's
15th.
the 15th?
Yes.
Brookside and where?
So the 15th will be Brookside and Greer Park,
Okay.
April 15th. March 25th will be Drexel Lodge Park.
Do you think it's too much to have it on the 16th of April? If the Big cleanup is the day prior.
You don't have a whole lot of work. Will you clean up?
So
We're not gonna be there. We're not
yeah,
gonna
we
be there.
usually go around. Yeah, I mean,
And we don't do a cleanup at Newby.
no, we don't do a cleanup at Newby. And again, we usually go around and pick up most of the trash the Monday afterwards.
All right. So I might try and do a cleanup at Newby. I'm gonna reach out to DCBA and see if they would do, they have 4 weekends in April that you can use, so we would just do a separate weekend and just have a smaller community cleanup.
I'll ask about April 16th and then I'll ask for maybe another Sunday in April and see what her availability is.
Okay.
I have an alternative, a suggestion.
Mhm.
Sunday work, but maybe we could think about trying it for a Saturday with a Sunday rain date right after.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
That way, maybe this artist could block out her weekend for us.
That's a good idea.
And maybe the afternoon would be better for those kids playing baseball because
They'll be done with that,
soccer, yeah,
because they're morning sports,
right.
more or
We'll
less.
just hold it as a 2-hour event or 3-hour event.
That's good. Yeah, I like having the rain date within.
Yeah,
the case.
And we'll
Hopefully.
do water ice again. Is that
Yeah.
water ice and pretzels again? It
Yeah, I
was-
think that was good and it was a small budget. I think it was $50 a tub. And the pretzels were like $30.
It was reasonable,
Yeah.
yes. Worked well.
Yeah, and if it's reasonable like that, again, if that's the goal, then we have budgeted funds to be able to cover that.
Okay.
I think it would, well, with the chalk art, it might come in at like $250 for the event.
So I guess we should probably vote on that. We have a motion to hold the event at Newby Park on April 2nd. Was it date?
Well, we'll shoot for April 15th and 16th.
Okay,
Is that all right that it's the same day then as?
clean up. Well, I can't make
Yeah.
it because I'm I have other people there as well. You're usually
then
there.
That might, yeah, that might be a lot for the.
that
whole
would be
weekend.
a lot, yeah.
Although
Yeah.
that would be morning.
April 1st and April 2nd are available. We could do that later in April. I just won't be able to do it. There's 22nd and 23rd and 29th, 30th.
Running out of weeks.
I think we have there's other
Unless
township
we
events.
Bumped it to. Wait, May 6th, May 6th is the family.
Yes,
Fest, okay.
Yeah, I think May 6th is the date you're going to be
yes.
Yes,
discussing Drexel Lodge.
yes.
Let's do the April, beginning of April then.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
first
think
and
that'd be
second.
good way to kick off the
Okay.
spring.
That's good. There's not, I mean, there's not as many activities. And so that should be.
April 1st and 2nd.
Do we have a motion to move forward with the chalk art event at Newby Park on April 2nd?
Yep, motion.
I'll second that, yeah.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.2, discussion and possible actions regarding the Family Fun Day event at Drexel Lodge Park. So the band, the Plants, the kids band is going to be there. And the petting zoo from out in Lancaster, somewhere they're coming. And the Charming, Caitlin reached out to Charming Shops.
Start, yeah, Sheila had reached out and then I connected with Dale Haverding today. Who runs Charming Star, and she is going to have a table with crafts. She said she can supply music until the band starts up.
Oh, Nice.
She told me the time.
It'll be like kids' music.
10 to 12:30. Craft table and character visit.
Perfect.
And we're gonna have to reach out to the Railroad Museum and coordination with them.
Yeah, I did notify them of the
Okay.
two possible dates. And I let them know that it looked like you were looking at May the 6th, but that I would confirm with that after this meeting.
The band only had that date available and they're kind of the big anchor of this event, so.
And I'd love to do the disc thing, the disc golf. 3.5 years. So I could set that up with you, George.
Yeah, we can work on that. We just want to make sure when that's done, it's not going to interfere with the children's concert. But yeah, I think
Right.
there's plenty of room to do that.
Right, no, we'll maybe do that for an hour or so, not the whole time.
And knowing that, knowing it's presuming when you take action that it's voted and that's the decision to do it on the 6th. I'll make sure that no other sports teams are going to be there so that we'll have full use of the park property.
So what is the proposed date for that?
May 6th.
May 6th.
It's from 10 till 3 or 10.
I think was the band 1 to 3 and
Yes.
everything else started at 10.
Yes. So the petting zoo would be there, all of the other stuff would be there, and then the band would come on and everyone would leave.
Will the band do like 2 sets maybe?
Yes. We'll have 2 sets, small break in between. Not sure if we want to put anything else on. I think it's
I
just
think
5 or 10 minutes.
Did the petting zoo give you time or?
They're gonna be there from 10 to 12, I think it is.
Okay, great.
And we could shut the disc golf down when the band kicks in.
Well, disc golf, is that something that could just kind of be going on? I feel like it's a different audience than the craft table versus disc golf. I feel
Yeah,
like
you would
we're
have to,
looking at-
you would have to separate the disc golf from away from that.
You'd have to go down to the lower soccer field.
Correct, because I think the original intention of
was
the disc
all-
golf was up closer to where the concert's going to be and
Sure.
on the sides.
Yeah.
So if they're going to be there at the same time, we'll just want to set up a new location for it.
Yeah, with long holes and short holes.
Yeah.
And keep all the kids contained down there. Right. And when they get tired of that, they go over and do other stuff.
And it's a temporary setup.
Yes, it's just hula hoops, some paint, spray paint and sticks.
So
And
that's
discs.
on the lower level field then?
Yeah. Yeah, the one to the right as you drive out.
So do we have a motion for Family Fun Day at Drexel Lodge Park on May 6th?
Yes, motion,
Second,
for May 6th.
May
Oh,
6th.
yeah, right, and the second. Desiree.
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.3, discussion and possible action regarding a water park themed event. I looked at the goal post at Brookside, just because if you did use water, it's a high enough spot that nobody's gonna get hurt. You would have to cover the post coming up, but that would be an option. I didn't put much thought into it other than that. I don't remember whose idea it was. Was this your idea, Desiree, the water park? or-
That was Bill.
No, it was
Bill,
Bill. It was
Bill.
That was
Bill.
Bill's idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I worry about the danger, although Bill's a pediatrician, so if he's suggesting it.
My only concerns were, does that do any damage to the field if it's wet and then everyone's running around? I don't know if that. Because there's usually sports.
There are, I mean, the key would be what the final concept was going to look like. And then we can look to see, is it really the best fit there? I think it was kind of nebulous as to what it was going to be.
Yes,
And so it's a little tough to answer. This is what effect it could have on the field when it's still kind of.
Right.
I don't see a whole lot of options. About some danger. Until Bill.
Yeah. He has to sell me on it because this is a very unsafe activity.
I'm a little nervous about the safety, the grounds and just water conservation.
Right.
So,
Oh, right.
So maybe we'll hear from Bill when he.
Or just two kids colliding. You know. You'd have to sign waivers. Well, they don't mean anything.
All right, so we'll table that one. Item 8.4. Discussion and possible action regarding the opening of the Bocce Ball courts. George and I met today and with Steve Nastardi, who is generously offered some plantings that we selected with his help. There's not many. So I don't know how many people we would need to do the plantings. I volunteered Peter and myself so far.
Yep.
But we'll have to just make a date of that, and I think we're gonna wait to find out when we're gonna open it. I think we have to wait for the temperature to be.
Yeah, and it's always tricky to know when the right temperature is going to be, because at the same time, like, we don't want to open the restroom building again until we know that the pipes aren't going to freeze.
And we had also discussed naming it after someone, and I talked to some people over the past month and discussed how to go about doing anything like that, naming something. So they suggested, try not to use anybody political if you can, because that kind of is divisive. So I don't know if anyone else has any ideas, but I thought maybe Clint, there was a police officer, Clint, that,
Yeah. Who died, Cunningham.
yeah, I don't know if that would be an option or not. I just thought it'd be nice to have a name on it. I guess we're gonna have a dedication, right?
I know there was going to be a ribbon cutting, to open it up. What exactly that dedication looks like, I'm not sure. Obviously you're a recommending body, so you would recommend to the board if we were going to look
Right.
to give it a name, or whether it would be wiser to just have it be part of Drexel Lodge and the Bocce Ball courts at Drexel Lodge or something like that.
What if we put like a plaque or something in memory on the bench, on the two benches that'll be at the Bocce Ball court? But I like the idea of naming the Bocce Ball, but I do wonder if, I don't know, maybe because not a lot of things are named at the different parks.
Right.
So-
There's only Greer, and that's all I know of that's named after anyone.
So thinking of just consistency and maybe just to locate, if it's Bocce Balls at Drexel Lodge Park, then it's, I don't know, it's very simple as
Right.
to where that location is.
All right.
Yeah, they have names on benches down in the old tennis court area, I think.
Yes.
Or the benches were donated by or in memory of.
One of the car dealers.
And the,
down
yeah,
there.
yeah, and the bridge going over too, I think.
All right. All right, so we won't name it,
Well, we can vote.
Yeah,
or
we can
could-
vote on it.
No,
Yeah.
Suggestion.
okay. Well, no, I was just, trying to bring up anything I can with Bocce Ball court. So I think we're good. We have the benches, or what's going on, George?
Yeah, so the benches are going to be arriving within the next couple weeks. And we'll be able to install them as soon as we can pour cement and have it harden up and it not freeze on us. So we'll get them installed as soon as we can. But again, they should be on site within the next few weeks.
And there
And we,
benches in the middle, right? So you said you could sit on either side to watch either game. right?
yeah, so we're doing a row of backless benches running down the center of the two courts. Then there's some benches with backs further toward the driveway, the sycamore trees. And then we've got two nice sized picnic tables that'll be back there as well.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Wow.
We are also finalizing the signage that's going to go up, and we have plenty of time. They'll be able to turn that around. The signs are basically roughed in. We're just going to add a couple lines in the beginning of what exactly is Bocce Ball, so that people come up and see it. They see that it's Bocce Ball. here are the rules, but what is it? Where did it come from? And so, 2 or 3 sentences there, and then we'll have something at the bottom saying, if you're a league, contact Marple Newtown Recreation at this
Oh,
number. And if they're, if you're an individual playing, you could feel free to play or contact the township if you need, direction on something.
So has Richie now, offered a date as to when he would start the league?
He has not. He and I usually talk toward the end of February
Okay.
with regard to all the field permits anyway. And he doesn't do any permits until March or April. So we'll be working with him as to how he wants to run that
Okay.
league split between here and at Marple.
And that's when you think it'll be open, is whenever we start the league, it's probably.
I think that's the target date. I mean, again, I think we're gonna let you know, we think it's ready now. We can get the benches in, we can get the bathrooms open again,
Okay.
those kind of things. We're gonna be ready for that. I think then you'll say, okay, maybe this might be a good date.
All right.
It's not gonna be before your next meeting. And then you would send that to the Board of Supervisors and say, this is when we would think it should be, and they can
We-
finalize
We
it.
had said maybe April or some,
Yeah,
not before.
no, yeah, not before. Because again, I mean, we still get winter weather storms in March, so we don't,
Yeah.
we don't want to look until well after they're clear.
Right.
So item 8.5, discussion and possible action regarding Gable Park basketball court. And that is another park that's named after someone. I don't know who it is, but. So the senior high art teacher has had some medical issues. She's had some other issues going on, and it's been off and on. She hasn't responded in the past week, so I'm just gonna throw in the towel on that and try and go another direction. Either use the mural in some form that the young man who was a junior, I think, 3 years ago when he designed it, use his mural. And just replicate it ourselves and have kids from different schools come in and paint this instead of the senior high art class. I would reach out to all the other younger kids, 6th graders, elementary school kids, have them come in. It's going to have to be organized. I'm thinking making templates and that kind of thing. So either we use that or we come up with a new design. And one of the things I thought of is the love statue. We could just replicate the love statue and give one school, 4 different schools a letter, the design, and then help them put that on. So we would either need templates or chalk layout with chalk lines and that kind of stuff. I used to be a pattern maker, so I can do some of that stuff, and I asked George if we could possibly use one of his guys to help.
So, and of course, the key is going to be, once you have determined on this is what Park and Rec is recommending for the mural, for the design, we have that drawn up in some fashion that we could present to the Board of Supervisors that they can then
For approval, yes.
yeah, exactly, approve it.
Yes, this is totally different than what we had planned, so.
Where's this for the mural? Is it for the?
No, the basketball court's over here,
Right.
the big one. That's where we're gonna do a mural on that,
On the
On the
court?
court.
on the court, yeah.
Okay. If you would like me to reach out to the high school and see if we can find someone else to contact to get this senior art class involved, I would be happy to help with that, but your idea, is also good. So whatever I can do to help.
If you can do it, like next week, by next week
Mhm.
sometime, that would,
Okay,
okay,
let's talk about that.
all right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll reach out. And so you were looking for the senior art class?
Karen Can is her name,
Okay.
so I'm not sure, what's
Who
going
she
on.
had in mind? Do you know who she had in mind to do the painting? Was it the art,
It's
certain-
the high school.
high school art?
They were gonna bring,
students.
bust them in and we were all gonna do
Okay.
it together.
Okay. I'll check
But
into it.
it just never worked out. We, between COVID and some other issues, it just never worked.
I'll check into it first thing. I'll check into it tomorrow.
George is held up doing a lot of maintenance on the court.
Is this just, we're talking this circle,
No, we're talking the basketball
the
court.
whole court?
Yes.
Wow.
I thought we had talked about, this is going back a few few months, so my memory might be spotty. That there was certain colors or certain number of colors that we could
Yes.
use, or so for the mural design, we'll kind of have some restrictions or parameters or something.
Yes.
If it changes, the mural that was already developed by the high schooler. Did that?
I
that
don't know, I
align
never
with
got
the
a copy of,
parameters?
I never got a copy of it.
Okay,
We were in Zoom conferences, so I only saw pictures of it. He never finished it and sent it in, so
okay.
I
Give
never
his
got.
name,
No,
okay, but Karen would know who he is?
yes,
Yeah, she has a design, okay.
I don't remember seeing it either.
I never did.
no,
Well,
I only saw it in the Zoom meetings I was having with the students and the teacher.
Right.
So, I mean, there's some other options and, perhaps the best thing to do is, pursue that as best we can, but at the same time, I'm gonna be developing some other options. If anyone has any ideas, just email me, let me know.
Okay.
And I'll do a PowerPoint pitch. Hopefully we can put something together quickly. I'd like to go to the supervisors as soon as possible. So we're gonna have to vote on it. Present it next month and then we'll vote on it and then take it to the supervisors, hopefully 2 weeks later, whatever it might be. And,
Yeah, and that's great. And again, just, so this board can keep in mind, what we're going to need to do is we'll shut down the basketball court. There's prep work that'll need to be done. First we do crack filling. We make sure it's all cleaned off. It gets a couple coats of basically an undercoat. Then they're going to put the lines on it. They're going to put the basketball lines on initially. Then either the art students or whoever's going to paint the mural comes in with the plan, paints it. We supply the paint so that they're using the right basketball court paint. And then the lines get done over by the company a second time so that, the lines are all clean. Because at the end of the day, you got to be able to play basketball on it.
Right.
and the lines that are on there are right.
They're absolutely correct.
So
Yeah,
if we use those lines in our design. Okay,
that would be, yes, exactly.
Before we go on there, I'm very interested in seeing the design. What a whole court, this big would look like. Because it would be distracting to basketball players. Dribbling down the court.
they're going on all over the country. I mean,
Are they
everywhere.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yes. Yes,
I think it'll be nice and we'll make sure that the way that it's done, the lines will be able to be seen. There'll be good contrast
Good.
for the basketball
Sure.
lines so that everyone can see that and continue to play. I think we just have to kind of figure out about the mural, and what will be developed or the love statue and giving it everybody.
and then, the word community over top of it or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
just kind of have to figure out, so Wade, you're proposing that we might vote on this in the March meeting?
Yes, it's, that's the soonest we could do it, so
Okay,
hopefully. I can send that out, when we put the agenda up, I can send it out to the committee at that point, once it's on the agenda, it's in the public.
Yeah, it'll be on the agenda, then everybody could look at it. And then anybody who would have an interest in it would see the agenda and they could come if they wanted to comment.
Okay, and then. You guys can develop your feedback, for the meeting.
Just so I understand, your goal would be at the March 13th meeting of the Board of Supervisors to have your design. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure I have a
That's this-
placeholder.
That's the soonest possible time we could do it, Steve,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
I'll put a placeholder on
Okay.
the agenda for that.
Thank you. So item 8.6, discussion and possible action regarding park visitation cards. So Desiree came up with this idea. I was supposed to speak with the librarian, but I haven't had a chance.
Okay.
But she's on board with anything. She'll help us. She's very good. Do you want to explain what?
Sure, I actually brought my magic marker mock-up.
Mhm.
So I just got the idea from visiting Yellowstone with my children many years ago. There was a book where they would get on a bus and visit different points at Yellowstone, and they would they would look where they were and say, "What do you see?" and they'd fill it in. So just to get more children to our parks, it kind of looks like this. And it could be something they could just print off of the website, so it'd be no cost item. And it says Newtown Parks Passport, we can call it whatever we want, and it lists each park. And then it says, I saw. And they can either draw a picture or write some words. I saw a bridge, I saw a swing. And then they would turn it into the library for a small prize. And I wanted to offer my husband and I to donate, the prizes if it got approved. So
That's a
we
great
talked
idea.
about a couple of prizes, just small things that might interest children that are current, like a fidget spinner or
Those suction cup things.
suction cup thing, or, Super Bowl, just something fun that's just, that's just a little something for the kids. So, I didn't know that Newby Park existed. I've lived in this community for 24 years. I just found out like a few weeks ago. So I just thought it'd be fun for the kids to go, gives the parents say, hey, let's go fill out another one of your squares, and, maybe we could give a time frame of 60 days or all summer or something like that.
I love it.
I do too.
It's great.
Yeah. So so that somebody would choose first place, second place, third place, or?
No, every child that completes it comes in for a tchotchke, a small prize.
Oh.
So, yeah, so if you,
Prize, like.
right, so if you have, let's just say you have a few parents, and they get together and they just go visit a couple of parks. If they have 8 kids between them, they bring all 8 kids in, they get a popper or, a
Great.
fidget spinner
Good
or
idea.
something.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's just, do you get a prize just for completing the visitation, and everybody gets one.
Perfect. Great idea.
It's great.
Like-
That'll
So,
attract to every, or community members to different parks, and that's why we did the event at Newby Park, just to give it a little bit more.
Yeah.
love. And I think it's a little bit tucked away, so I don't
Yeah.
think you're the only one I think Newby Park on Parks and Rec.
Yes. So I don't know, it'd be a very simple design. I don't know if we have somebody at the township that could do it. If not, I can, my PowerPoint skills are a little rusty, but I could, mock something.
I can throw something together in Power.
All right, that,
So how about if I just do something, send it over to you, and then we'll tweak it back and forth and.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I really love the concept, and so I think it really helps promote the parks. I think what I'd like to have you do, if you don't mind, kind of come up with your concept, go before the board, so we get some excitement from our supervisors. And maybe we can, if we do it over a period of time, maybe even have supervisors beat a couple of the parks at different times. I'm just throwing some ideas out that would,
Sure.
encourage the kids, and maybe even have some times where there's some connections that we could put a couple of events, add it to your events, and, just make it a part that, they could actually participate in, and do that. So, I think it's a great concept.
Maybe on the back of it, once we have dates finalized, we could have our events and the dates. So, if they're like, oh, well, we haven't been to Newby, they're doing water ice next month, we'll go then.
Yeah, and I'm even thinking, you're talking about the park cleanups with that. I mean,
yeah.
what a great opportunity for the kids to come out and help and do
Yes.
that, I mean, it's, they could experience some fun, but also experience helping to
community
keep
service.
the parks at a clean in that way. So I think there's a couple possibilities there to do that.
Yes,
And if you'd like me to be available to present it to the Board of Supervisors, I'm happy to once we mock something up.
so I think we'll go on the same, do we want to be on the same schedule? How about if we go 2 weeks later? We don't want to bombard the supervisors.
I think it would actually be okay to come in with both on
Okay,
the same night.
all right.
Just so you can, I think I want, I mentioned just for the board members that weren't here, although I think all of you were, we had a meeting, Monday night this week. Yeah, it was this week. I've lost track. But for the chairs and the vice chairs, as well as the secretaries, but I know Desiree, you came as well. And that's great. But it's that at that meeting, we actually discussed, working together on some of these things, but also, I think this would be a good, like we discussed, that being in front of the board, so many times a year. And so this would be a great opportunity for you to be in front of the board, talk about some of the things you're doing, not just the basketball, but do, a couple things if you want to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
We were talking about collaboration between the committees on Monday. I wonder if maybe if we had one side Parks and Rec and maybe another side Trails or Trails and Greenway, and then they could kind of check off. Maybe that's too ambitious.
What percentage?
Different. But if Trails and Greenways knows when they're running a few walks, then they have dates, and maybe they don't, and then this wouldn't be viable, but you could have parks on one side and then on the other side, have Trails and Greenways, and they could kind of say like, oh, I've done that trail, and
Oh,
and then maybe at the bottom, any dates that we have, because on Monday we threw, a few of the committees threw out dates, and then it's just another way to kind of advertise all the things that we have going on.
you, on the back of that sheet, okay.
So we could have parks on one side, Trails and Greenway on the other, and then maybe at the bottom, just any dates that we have.
A good idea.
Right.
Just to kind of,
Yeah.
advertise. all
And the
the
good
things.
news is they meet right before you all do. So you could,
Oh, that's
you
right.
could
Yeah,
probably
we're-
pull it all
yeah,
together.
So that's a great idea, Desiree, we're gonna.
I've borrowed it from the National Park System.
Great.
I will send it to Terry or who's the chair over there now?
Anthony DiVincenzo.
Okay.
And I think Beth is the vice chair.
Old business, item 9.1, discussion and possible action regarding the shading at Brookside Park, potential shade.
Yes,
George,
so.
you had something there.
Yeah, so I'm going to put something on the screen. I'm actually going to bring around some color copies so you can see it closer. And the folks that are out in the audience, you should be able to see it up on the screen, hopefully.
I did visit today and took some measurements,
Thank you.
because I thought Bill might have questions about the height.
Thanks.
And
Oh, PK. Oh, thanks. Wow.
very nice, George, thank
Yeah.
you.
Well done.
Thanks, George.
So what you see in front of you end up on the screen right now. Again, for well over a year, we've been trying to work on getting some shade at Brookside Park. And initially, we were not able to find a solution that would have applied any shade to the actual playground set itself. So we were focused on just taking care of shade around the benches and the tables and things like that in the playground area. So eventually, and we are on our third representative with the company now, and it's interesting. I have, because of the level of frustration, I reached out to other companies, and none of the other companies I reached out to dealt with the model of the playground set that's at Brookside Park. So we were kind of stuck with a Little Tykes supplier, but it's fine. We've got a solution now. So eventually, the third person came back and said, well, there are some options that can go onto the playground set itself. And what they are, they're not shades like we were looking at in that sense. They're more of a plastic roof that could be added to the three locations. Two that are 4-post and they're kind of smaller at the top of the slides, and then one that's larger in the center. And they add pole extensions to it, and they add the roofs to it, and it connects right to the set. They've checked, they work with this set. So, and fortunately, it's within the budget that we have. So within the budget, we could afford to honor the request that I think was made. And again, this is kind of where I'm getting direction from you as to, okay, now we've got this solution in front of us. Is it what you envision? So within the budget, we can afford to put the 3 roofs on the playground set and then have one additional shade that is a freestanding shade that would go over any one of the benches or a table or something like that. And that fits within the budget that we have. So what you see up on the screen and on that first page there, the top are the items that we can pick from a style standpoint. And then at the bottom, you can see what our current set is. One, so you could see what the colors are and get an idea of what it would look like. If you look at the second large color page, and again, Steve is putting that up there now. So along the top are the three colors that are available for the smaller roof. You've got the blue, you've got the green, and you've got the red. I will note that the green in the middle, it's the same coloration as is the set that we have at Brookside. That set is actually at the back of Gable Park. So in the little playground set in the back of Gable behind the Public Works building, the little park back there, that's actually on that set. So you can see very clearly what the green would look like if you went with that, or you could certainly do something contrasting. And then at the bottom of the page, you can see what the center sections would be, and those are the color offerings that they have. Again, your tan and your green, which would match it, or if you wanted to go with something that was contrasting. Now the sheet, and it's not up on the screen, the sheet that we have, because we've shown it enough other times previously, the single shade option. That's just to show you basically what the single shade would look like going over one of the seating areas. So that's the proposal that we've come up with now. One shade to cover over one of the seating areas to give people shade when they're visiting the park. And then the three roof structures that would go over top of the playground set itself. If you decide you don't like that, then we can go back to the just more individual shades throughout the seating area.
Normally, I don't see a lot of multiple families there. It's normally one family, two family, and they don't stay a long time. So I think one might satisfy the requirements. It's seldom that there's that many people there. And you would only really need the shade on the hottest days of the year. That's what we were concerned about most. I don't know. Does anyone else have any thoughts on? I kind of like adding the color to the playground because it is, if you drive through the park, it's a little boring.
Yeah.
Just needs a little more color in there. I've always said that.
Yeah, I think this is great, George, because when we had, the last time we were at the park and we talked with, the guys from,
Boys, yeah.
We talked about maybe having one larger shade, roof shade over the middle of the playground set, or two. But you're saying that we could put three.
We could put three. So that was the proposal they gave me, was if we put the three, it would be the larger one that you see up on the screen or on your page 2.
So that would be in the middle.
That would be in the middle.
In the middle by like, so it would be like here, the larger one
Yes,
would be here.
yes.
At the like, the wall, and then the green one would be here. Would the other, would the two green ones be like on one end of the bridge, closer to the twisty slide, and then like the very beginning of the set?
Exactly. They're basically over top of the two slides, the twisty slide and the straight slide.
That's awesome. I mean, we didn't think we were gonna get that much shade, and I think that the shades are gonna be great too. I think one will be sufficient for the playground. I guess we just have to figure out where, do you put it over the table, the wheelchair accessible table, or do you put it by the bench?
Most people sit at the front by the gate, I think, because they want to watch their kids at the gate there.
I think the table with the chessboard would be a nice spot to show.
If that's an option, I don't know if there's what the structure is there underneath or.
So it is an option. And the fortunate thing is that shade is going to come in. We're going to install it. So we don't need to decide today where the shade is going to go.
Okay.
We can decide that in a subsequent month. I just need to know, is that an option that you're recommending that we do to, honor the request?
Yeah,
So I like the three, sorry, excuse me.
no,
I like to go with the maximum amount of shade if we can, and it's in our budget to put them on top. I think it just adds a lot of interest for the kids to say, oh, wow, that's just a really cool park, because it just adds, they do like to sit and giggle on the little platforms. So I think the roof, as many roofs as we can put on it, and then a nice shade wherever you all see fit, sounds good to me.
And The plastic ones you would not have to take down at the end of season.
Exactly. So the fabric shades that we were originally looking at, and we'll still get the fabric shade for the seating area, they have to come down every season. We wash them, maintenance them. They don't last forever. The plastic ones that go on the set, I mean, they're integral to the set. We don't take them back off again.
That's great. Thank you.
It was great to finally get
From an answer.
a solution that could be, brought to you.
Yeah, I love the big ones.
Yes, they're beautiful. So do you need like to vote on colors so that you can order them, or what's the next step?
Yeah, so first of all, if you approve of the concept of the 3 roofs on the play set and the one on the seating, then I'll know that we can kind of lock in the pricing, lock in the agreement. If you give me the colors, I'll be able to place an order as soon as I make sure that the board is okay with it. The Board of Supervisors had previously approved the project being done, but we've changed what we presented to them, so I would want them to at least be able to look at it.
You want us to be there for that as well? You want to
I
do
mean,
that?
I don't know that you need to be for that. The concept has been presented to them. What I would want is a clear direction from you coming out, going to the board. This is what you would like, because the board took action initially upon your first recommendation. Since you're kind of changing your recommendation, I think if we have that and say Parks and Rec made this suggestion for a change, and I don't think that's a problem. I think, but it would be nice to be able to go back and say, yes, they want a red top, a green top, and a blue top, or, whatever you decide to add color. And then, and that you're still doing a shade, and you're probably going to do it over, the recommendation would be to do it over like the chest area or whatever area, just so they have an idea of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. I don't know that they need any more than that.
Okay. Do you have,
This might sound crazy, but while I think red is a nice contrast, I think that bringing the cherry red roofs in is going to show that the slides and the other red features are a bit faded, so it's not going to.
right.
So I'm not going to vote for red. But I think the green would be really sharp, and it looks great at Gable. I do like the large picture center bottom.
Yep.
With the green and then the beige trim. The blue could be nice too. I mean, that's there's not really any blue on the playground set, but I wouldn't vote for red, I guess.
And I think that we had a conversation last year when we were discussing the sliding board, and we had decided against red for some reason as well. So, and it does make it look uniform, the green and the tan.
Mhm.
Kind of makes it look like a park ranger station. It just gives it a certain effect, and that is throughout our park systems. I would tend to vote for the green.
Me too. I would too. Although this, the contrast with the kind of the tan with the green is also nice, but I like the green bit best. And accents.
Should we
Are
vote?
we,
So-
If we vote tonight, that way they know what to take to the board.
Then I could bring it to the board right away, right?
We have momentum. That's not.
So I would go with either of the configurations of the green octagonal roof.
So I'll make a motion for the green roof with the beige trim in the center, and then 2 green smaller roofs on the sides.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept 2 green roofs, the green roof, beige trim, and an umbrella over one of the tables in the park. To be decided later.
You need a color for the umbrella,
If you can give me one, that's fantastic.
so it's beige or blue.
No, actually, they probably have 20 colors of them. Now, previously, when it was only going to be the shades, you had determined that green was probably going to be the wisest way to go. I had presumed that you would be still thinking along those lines, but again, you don't have to.
I think green might hide any kind of bird stains that come down versus a tan. I like the idea of a
Right.
tan and keeping it nice and natural, to be honest with you, but I think you're gonna possibly look dirty sooner, so maybe a green that complements the new roofs would be nice, but we don't want too much of a contrast in a green because then it's gonna clash, so make sure they're in the same green color family.
Okay, so
That's my thought.
do we have, I just want to make sure we pass it right. Do we have a motion to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to install 2 green roofs, a green roof with beige trim on the play set and an umbrella, a shade umbrella on one of the benches at Brookside Park,
And that shade would be green.
and that shade is going to be green. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion.
Okay, a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I
All those opposed? So the motion carries.
Fantastic. You've given me what I need to be able to run with it. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
George,
Thank
thanks for
you.
doing all that. That's
Yeah.
really exciting because this is more than we thought we were gonna be able to do.
Well, and this group was very patient. It was very frustrating getting to this point, but thank goodness we were able to get
I
it.
mean, at one point, they told you they couldn't add anything to the existing
Yes.
play set, and then now we have 3.
Now all of a
rooms that
sudden
we're
we have
adding.
a full
So,
set, yeah.
It's really great, thank you.
Item 9.2, update and possible action regarding bat boxes at Brookside Park. So EAC had requested possibly installing bat boxes at Newby Park or another park. And before we did that, we just wanted to confirm that bats were actually living in the bat houses at Brookside Park. So I've been down there for the past 10 months or so. I've never seen one bat. I hate to say that, but I haven't not seen any bats. So I don't think it's a good idea to keep pursuing.
Until the bats show
Until we figure out how to make this work. So Caitlin had looked up,
It takes about like 2 years for them to kind of.
and this would be our second year here. But you had looked up putting some plants in there, natural scented, nighttime scented plants and that kind of stuff. There were
Yeah.
some other options. Do you want to look into some possible options and then just bring it back next month?
Yeah, I can do that.
And in the meantime, I'm gonna go, I have a fiberglass tube that I can strap a paintbrush on and clean them out. Some of them have some bees, wasp nests in there, so. I'll volunteer Peter and I to do that one as
Sure,
well.
I've got long arms, yeah.
So for the minutes, Wade and Pete to clean out the bat box.
Yes,
Batmobile.
so we don't need to take any action on that. The item 10, public comment. You can state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name's Janet Sawicki. I live at 4 Aspen Drive, Newtown Square. So, good evening. So, I was wondering if there was any update on the stormwater investigation that was done for the area that goes along 252 between Aspen Drive and Sawmill Road.
So that would be George is in charge of the correction of the water there.
Sure. So I would say about 4 or 5 months ago, the township engineer was directed to start working on some concepts for how that could be done. As you know, I mean, several years ago, we had a meeting with everybody that was in the neighborhood over there about the stormwater. There's been a couple attempts to try to address it with the property at Sawmill and 252 now being a township owned property. And the open space Aspen and 252 property next door. That is now kind of provided the opportunity to look to see where that water can be drained and sent it to. So the engineer has been tasked with starting the initial plans of how that block can be addressed with stormwater. I think that's,
So was someone, an expert brought in to look at the area and make recommendations?
so yes, so the township engineer, now the project was started by the previous township engineer that was Stantec.
Yes.
So Stantec came out and did the survey work and did some of the initial topography work. And I know they had looked at that block previously. Now, since that time, the township engineer is no longer Stantec, it's now Pannoni. And Pannoni has taken that baton, took the research that they did. They were asked to start looking at what that project could look like.
Okay, to control the stormwater.
Yeah, the main emphasis was to make sure that we could, I mean, I think you know that the mouth of Sawmill and at 252, that's the place where water stands.
Yes,
And
yes.
so the idea was to look at that and at the same time, look at, we know that it's a little bit of a traffic congestion spot because coming off, it's very narrow at that spot.
Right,
And so we were looking at two sides. Can we widen it a little bit and address stormwater at the same time? And so that's what the engineer was just told to look at. In addition, they've done that. They have a high level concept plan that we submitted for a grant to try to help us with that. There's some dollars out there available for stormwater. So they came in with a high level concept plan to address that so that we could get some grant dollars to finish the engineering and then also potentially do some construction.
okay. Thank you. So I have a number of things tonight to discuss. So last week, my husband and I and several of our neighbors, some of whom are here tonight, we went to the supervisor meeting and we had heard that there was an idea discussed with this committee to put pickleball courts in that area between Aspen and Sawmill Road. So I'm here tonight to say that everyone that was at that meeting, including myself, don't really agree with that idea. And I have listed it here, a number of reasons for not being in favor of that idea. So the first thing is that we're not in agreement with having a parking lot that would be needed for that facility. And secondly, that if you had a parking lot and 2 pickleball courts, there'd be a large impervious surface area. And that might impact surface water and contribute to the problem. In addition, that area right now is home to a number of animals and wildlife. And it would have a big impact on all those animals. The third thing is that pickleball is a very noisy sport. It's a wiffle ball and a hard paddle, and it goes ping, and the sound travels. And in addition to the noise that we now get from traffic on 252 going whizzing by there at our house, which is right off 252 and abuts that property there. We'd have that additional noise carrying to our house and our neighbors' homes. And there would be no vegetation to block the noise because you'd have a parking lot and you'd have 2 pickleball courts. In addition to that noise, I think that players of pickleball wouldn't really appreciate having the noise of traffic going by when they're playing pickleball, because it might interfere with their game. You depend upon the noise of how someone hits pickleball. So apart from that, I don't think there would be room for expansion of any pickleball courts there in that narrow strip of land. And my understanding is that pickleball is very popular now through here and throughout the country. And so if you wanted more pickleball courts, you'd have to go find another spot. So my suggestion, instead of pickleball courts, for the development of that strip of land is to do what's necessary to control the stormwater at a minimum, to do that, and do it by saving vegetation in that strip that can be saved. In addition, I understand that nature sometimes needs help. So I would suggest enhancing the beauty of the area by planting native plants to the area, and then installing a walking trail through that area from Aspen to Sawmill or Sawmill to Aspen. And it could connect with trails on Lissitor property and thereby connect neighborhoods in the township. So the idea would be to have this trail go through a beautified area with native plantings, something like the High Line in New York City, which is, I don't know if you've been there, but it's a beautiful spot for residents of the city to walk and enjoy nature. So as an alternative to a site for the pickleball courts, I would suggest that Drexel Lodge Park might be an option. Rather than develop a new park with pickleballs, courts that have all these other problems. At Drexel Lodge, you have restrooms there, you have a parking lot already, and I think you probably have space for 2 pickleball. That's all I wanted to say.
So thank you very much. So we, we just recommend to the Board of Supervisors what we think. We just review stuff and come up with ideas for events and that kind of stuff. And we're neighbors. And one of the first things that we discussed was the impact to the neighbors that surrounded that piece of land. And we discussed all the things, just about all the things that you're talking about, putting native species in, making sure that there was no noise involved, that would impact your lives, change your lives. One of the things that we have to consider is what's in greatest demand right now. Special needs playground, pickleball court, they're in great demand. So we need to consider them whenever we do anything new. We're not saying that that's what's going to go there. We're just putting that on the list because that's always on the list.
Yeah.
If this is a project and we were having a baby, we wouldn't even be pregnant right now. So that's where we're at in the stage of development. We don't even know if we can have a baby.
Well, I
Which-
just wanted to get these ideas on the record.
And we love them. So one of the things we discussed was that walkway coming from Aspen and making your neighborhood more walkable. I've walked all over your neighborhood. I drove, I saw people walking.
Yeah.
And we'd like to bring it out to 252 and put an enhanced crosswalk in there because it's pretty dangerous for you guys to get across the street
We
there.
don't do that.
As it is.
I don't even ride my bike across that.
So we discussed that being one of the things that we thought was important. The pickleball and some of the other options, we're just throwing stuff down on a piece of paper. I don't know what's going to be there. We have to go in front of the Board of Supervisors and take that information and just make a recommendation. And that's just to get the ball rolling on studies and feasibility studies and that kind of stuff. There'll be workshops that you will all be invited to. There'll be many opportunities for you to have input to the plan as it matures. But right now, they just wanted some options from us, and we put that down because like you said, it's in great demand.
Yeah,
So, we need to keep those people, there's a lot of people screaming for pickleball. If we don't say that we're considering it, they're gonna be mad at us as well.
well, could you also consider putting them at Drexel Lodge Park?
Yes, there are other options, yes.
Okay.
And I agree with you that would make more sense to put them there.
Yeah,
I personally would agree with you, but,
Okay,
so I mean, there's nothing written in stone that we're gonna put anything in there whatsoever. This is the very, very beginning of anything.
We did have, thank you for coming and to the meeting and sharing your points with us. We did have a lot of the same thoughts as you, and that it might be nice to connect a walking trail to Lissitor. And I think that we had said that would PennDOT need to be involved for the crosswalk?
Right.
So that was sort of like next level.
Right, so with regard to the crosswalk, because there's been an interest in a crosswalk there ever since that traffic signal went in at Sawmill Road. And a lot of it comes from the folks that live in the neighborhood over there, because they like the idea of getting over to the Lissitor Trail now that it's there. One of the challenges has been that PennDOT won't even consider there to be a crosswalk if you don't have a landing site on either side. So as of right now, if you were to go from the Lissitor side to the Sawmill side, there's nowhere to go other than walking in the street. And they would not even consider that as a possibility. When this question came up as to what are some potential things that could happen if we were doing stormwater work, and what are some recreational possibilities be there? One of the things that they were strongly recommending was, could we use this as an opportunity to get a crosswalk in? And if there was something on the other side of the street, on the Sawmill side of the street, that you could say, yes, there's a landing spot. Now we could put a little sidewalk. It would get into the property. You have a very good rationale now to be able to go to PennDOT and say, look, there's something to do on this side. There's something to do on that side. People are going back and forth. You're not crossing the street and just standing in the street now. You've actually got somewhere that you're going. So it's a great opportunity for that. Sorry if I was long-winded, but that was responding to your question.
Remember that, so thank you. So we had talked about possibly connecting. It's just next level, and that we would need some sort of landing site, which would be some sort of, community use of that space, whether it be pickleballs or something else. But we had also mentioned at our meeting, potentially having, a walk or something. We also talked about native plantings to enhance the beauty, which you had also mentioned. We also addressed the noise, that it's just really noisy coming off of 252. You know that, you all know that better than anybody. So what could we do? And you said there's no buffer. So we said maybe we could talk to EAC or another committee who would have some expertise to share on what sort of vegetative buffer could be put in or planted to help with that, because to help on both sides, so that the neighbors are not absorbing so much noise from community members at that space, and also community members are a little bit sheltered from the noise coming off of 252. So that is something, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something that we had talked about as well. And as far as the parking lot, we didn't talk too much about it being an impervious surface. Thank you. But I don't know, but I mean, some of the parking spaces are they gravel? I mean, so maybe there's a potential for
And there's pervious material that you can use today that they've developed for trails and I believe actually parking on there. One of the things we considered was a quiet space for that. So, that was, I'm sure you wouldn't object to that, right? With a bench for someone to go read. And, we need places for children with special needs who are artistic and need a quiet space. So we thought that would be an option for those children to be able to go there and just walk that little trail.
I thought about a playground actually for that area. But I don't know, with 252, it's a 4-lane highway with cars whizzing by all the time. And I'm not sure that's an ideal spot for a playground with,
It would have to
Young
be
children.
gated. If we did that, it would have to be gated to
yeah.
the way around that. And then we talked about maybe
And
having, yes, we talked about maybe having stationary exercise equipment. Then when you walked on the trail, you could do pull-ups on or something like that with some instructions on it. Because there's none of that in the township as well. And they're just things that are in kind of demand. So that's why we put them in the plan. Because it helps us with the next plan, you know. There's stuff on the Meadow Preserve, there's stuff on Greer Park Master Plan that we can pull off and use somewhere else. So
I would just make one note that if we're doing anything at that location, that we're putting potential where cars going down the road could come off. If you recall, I don't know if you remember, but when the daycare came in,
Goddard.
not Goddard, but the daycare came in, although Goddard's another good example. That's actually just down the street on the
Oh,
other
yes.
side,
Yes.
on the other side of the water tower. Yes, one of the things that we required was that they put bollards in up
Yes.
there. I would say that if we're gonna put any kind of activity, no matter what it is, whether it's adults or children or whatever, we're gonna have to look at something like that or a berm or something that would allow for safety, because obviously we don't want something where some driver
Runs off the road.
runs off the road and runs into and hits a playground full of kids or adults or whatever. So I think that actually, I don't remember which one of you made the comment that it was kind of like looking at a pregnancy, right? You know, we are at the very early stages of saying we want to get pregnant, in that regards, the stormwater issue was the first piece that has to be designed. And until we get that, we really can't design the rest of any other activity at that location, because the stormwater may take 90% of it, or it may take 30% of it. And until we know that, we have to do that first before we can take the next step.
And what would be the impact of putting pickleball courts in
If let's say this, if we
have the
did.
stormwater problem already?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're going to do it, you would design a stormwater basin big enough to handle whatever needed to be handled, or stormwater, I say basin, maybe it's not a basin, maybe it's something different. And we won't know that until the engineer does all the calculations and gets all of that done. We may find out, like I said, that 90% of the property has to handle stormwater. There's not much else that can be done. Or we may come back and say, well, only 30% has to handle stormwater. I believe there's already a stormwater basin on the Aspen side of that's kind of sitting there, if I recall.
There is, it's a culvert.
Yes, and so that's got to be taken into account, and what happens there. We have to look at all of those things before we even move forward. And so we really are in a very early stage of just trying to understand. But as the engineer was trying to design, they wanted to know what all the possibilities were, so that as they design the stormwater, they could say, yeah, this is possible, or no, this is not.
Okay. All right, we look forward to working with.
yes, we do as well. And
Thank
we will,
you.
we listen to everything. We'll take everything under consideration. Everything. So,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your comments.
On Janet's topic, how long do we think it would be till the engineers do have the water management issue situated? Or
So they have a basic design today.
Okay.
The engineer has gone through and said, I think we have this idea. But it's dependent upon a couple other things. And one of those was we went out for the grant, because depending on how many dollars we get from the grant would determine some of the options that we would have. You can do a basin, and that's pretty simple, and But you can also do some other types of stormwater designs that are more expensive. You can do some that require plantings in the bottom and to soak up water, and there's like lots of options. And so the grant would help us know like really what we could do more fully. Particularly, we also have tried to tie in the concept of trying to create some walkability along Sawmill. And as we're trying to create that walkability, potentially a bike lane, those kind of things, slowing traffic down, making it feel more like a neighborhood road again. All of those things were part of those discussions. Until we know for sure which way those are going, they may actually determine some of the stormwater issues. So if we're putting a sidewalk in, potentially curbing and those kind of things, that may require an additional type of responsibility for stormwater, because you actually have now additional impervious surface that you have to address. And so we have to look at that whole piece
So the
as
whole
we look at,
I
so it's
understand
not, it's, I wish it was just as simple saying we're addressing the water that's sitting there today. It's addressing the water that's sitting there today and what potential water could be there, so that we can get to the spot where we can really petition PennDOT for that crosswalk that we really all think, I mean, like everybody talks about that crosswalk as being needed.
Mhm.
And so to be able to do that, we just have to, as George talked about, having that landing spot. Well, that landing spot is going to be created by something that's there. And
Right.
what does that look like?
So maybe within the year, we would know if we were awarded that grant money.
Oh, I think I want to say this grant money is probably late spring, early summer.
Okay.
And then from that would then give us the ability to go do the next level of design and the next step. We've actually applied for 2 separate grants. One grant for the sidewalk kind of potential, the walking and doing some traffic calming along Sawmill. And, and then the second piece coming back and addressing the stormwater. And it's 2 different places where the funding's coming from. And that's where we're looking at it.
There's two items at the entrance of where the old house, the entrance to the old house. I was wondering if maybe as a community, we might consider just, there's 2 things that really could be straightened. There's a metal bench on top of a boulder with no legs. And there's also an old post that maybe had a light fixture on it. Could we as a township take those down? Like, I almost did it personally, but I don't want to get caught like.
Yeah, so here's the deal. We own the property.
Right.
We can take down whatever we want to take down at this point. I think we were kind of waiting, just if we were going to come in and do a revamp, we would, because there may be more that should be taken down at the same time. George and I've actually been addressing, there's some tree issues that need to be addressed. So we could add that to it. I think we could probably take those things down.
Can I push,
quickly.
just go push the bench?
Yeah.
Push the bench behind the boulder.
Yeah.
Push it.
Yeah, we can take the bench down.
Okay.
And then if
The
the
light-
light pole's there, the only thing I would be concerned about if there's electricity in it.
Yeah.
And
I thought
if that's been cut off and done properly, but
Yeah.
other than that, yes.
I think that from the street, that's all that really people see. I mean, I know there's a lot of tree issues on the wires and things, but I think that would just help clean it up temporarily till we figure out
Yeah.
what we're doing. Thank
I
you.
know the team, I know George's team has been out there
Yeah.
and done a lot of work already.
Yeah.
But yeah, those little things.
But we
Yeah.
left out.
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
whatever reason. we didn't touch it.
Thank you.
They kind of made it still feel like it was a homestead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Homey.
And what we don't want,
Yeah.
and what we've been careful about, is we don't really want people thinking it's a place to pull off now and do that. And so we've been careful not to take it away from a little bit of a feel that it's still a little bit private until we get it set where we want it to be.
Well, if you think that achieves that, then I'm good with it. I just- I want
But no, that was, we had talked about we were really concerned about people starting to
Yeah.
pull off.
I don't blame you, but we'll report it if they are. Just
Yeah, I know you will.
full disclosure on part of the neighborhood.
Yeah, no, we're aware of that, and
Yeah.
we were just, when we first looked at it, we talked about, we wanted to clean it up,
Yeah.
but we didn't want to make it so inviting
makes
that
sense.
people would pull off until we were ready to do so safely,
I mean, it
because
makes
that's the
sense.
last thing we wanted.
Understood. Thank you.
Evening. My name is John Sawicki. I'm Janet's husband, and I live at the same address that she lives at. We are sort of nervous Nellies. Every time we look out our back window and we see people in orange vests or yellow vests traipsing about in the property behind us, I go out and I say, "What's going on here?" They say, "Oh, we're just cleaning up stuff." You know, I said, "Well, are there any plans for this property?" And we don't know. We don't know anything. We've had, I'm not sure if they were from Stantec or not, but there were surveyors that actually came to our driveway. We're the closest house on Aspen to 252. They were on our driveway looking around for borders and said, "Where's your border?" I said, "Beats me, you know, but I know we've got a good piece of property there." And they were taking measurements and everything like that. So we naturally got suspicious about things. Now, from what you're saying, and it's comforting to hear that there's nothing written in stone about what's going on. And we'll take you at your word on that. But be assured that if some concrete proposal comes out to put pickleball courts in there, we're going to be beating your doors down here and at the supervisors meeting. We went through the whole firehouse business a few years ago. And, you know, this is the fourth time we've had to defend the property behind us. Long ago, they wanted to put the railroad museum in our backyard. And I went to the supervisors meeting and said, "You got to be kidding me." And fortunately, we had good support from the community about that. And, you know, the person who was proposing that, you know, got basically put in his place on that. Then we had the firehouse, and we went to supervisors meetings for a year and a half until that issue finally got resolved, much to our relief. And then about a year ago, the Knights of Columbus bailed out of the neighborhood and sold it to a hair salon.
Yes.
And that place is just an eyesore right now because nothing has been done with the property. The trees that were along Aspen Drive have been torn down by that. So, you know, we're longtime resident, not as long as some of you or some other people, but we've lived in Newtown Square since 1995.
So if we,
That's true, yeah. We used to live on Ellis Avenue.
there you go. So if, you know, this process is really long and requires, you know, steps along the way. So one of the steps is that there'll be a design. There'll be several designs pitched at that point, and that's when something will be kind of voted on. We're probably, you know, 5 years away from that.
I wouldn't go 5 years. So, you know, I mean, I think we want to try to move this along. I don't want somebody thinking that this may not, I mean, if we can get a design this year, it will be before you this year. And so I want to be clear on that. We want to move this forward for addressing something that we think needs to be addressed related to stormwater now. And so we have an opportunity. There's grant dollars out there to do that. And we want to jump on top of that and try to get that and move forward. So that doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a use other than the stormwater plan completely done. But if we can get the stormwater done, we will move forward with that. And if in that same time, we might be talking about, here are the 5 or 6 types of things that could be done at that property. You know, you may have something before you to say, yes, we're going to do a trail, or yes, we're going to be able to do this or that. Or there may, you know, it may be like 4 things that you need to choose from. And then it will be an opportunity for us to go back, invite the public in, those that live there, those who would be using it, and say, what is it that you would like to see here? I don't think we'll do a full plan like we've done for the Greer Park or we've done for the Meadow Preserve, a full master plan, but it will be a similar type of concept.
We'll do some type of public workshop or
Yes, we would.
that we would all sit down together and talk like human beings to each other and try and develop
Well,
a plan that,
I think we've been all human.
yes,
about
yes,
this.
no, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Okay, I mean, Janet and I and our neighbors will take you at your word here, that there's no nefarious plan going on. But, be assured that if something totally objectionable, like a pickleball court, is proposed to be put in there, we will fight it tooth and nail. Okay?
Understood.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you. All right, is there any other? All right, so items for next agenda. I think we, have we added anything already?
I'd like
Oh,
to
yes.
add, about, the goose droppings over at Greer Park. There's a lot over there and it's, making the park not very friendly to walking.
George said that, that you were gonna have a plan to deter at Drexel
Drexel.
Lodge.
Drexel, but this is a. Greer.
Okay, so for Greer, last spring, someone came with someone was hired, to bring their dog to try to scare is that like a,
That was
That
at Drexel.
that happened again? I thought it was at Greer. as
Did we do
well.
it at Greer?
Now, we did it, so we did it at Drexel. And again, because they had kind of migrated over to Drexel and were, we wouldn't have been able to have concerts there and events there and things like that. It was getting to that point. Greer Park, again, there's a master plan. I don't know what that schedule is, but I don't think it's near to anything
Yeah.
starting with it.
So Greer Park is another one of those that we're trying to move forward with right now on at least some. We have 2 grants that we have to do some action on in the next year if we want to continue to have those grants. And so I've instructed the new engineer to come up with a design, not a design, but a plan to address a couple of those areas for that. The piece that's also tied into that is that stream going through Greer Park needs to be rerouted to do that. It's also part of our MS4 plan in order to address the stream banks and to reduce the sediment within the stream. So I'm trying to get the engineer to do a plan that makes sense to do it all at the same time. I don't want to turn around, move the stream bank, and then turn around and have to go back and do a reduction of sediment plan. I'd rather do it all at once. And so that's what I've asked the engineer to do. The original MS4 plan was to go through Greer Park, I don't know how many feet of stream is in Greer Park, but there's X number of feet, 700, 800, 900 feet. And then they were going to go down and do another section down at the Brookside Park. And I asked the engineer team, the old one as well as the new one, and I said, why are we doing the 2 parks and not addressing the upstream properties that will be putting sediment where we've just cleaned up and done all that work? And I said, and maybe I don't understand it. I'm not the engineer. I just look at things from what I think is logic, right? And that's how I look at things. And they said, actually, you're right. It would make more sense to start at the very mouth of the stream, which happens to be just up a kind of on the north side of Kelly Road.
Yes.
And so was to start there and work our way down. I talked to the engineer again about it today. He was a little concerned because I guess the stream comes right up against a couple buildings and impacts. And so we talked about like what we could do without necessarily reorienting the stream at those locations, because I don't want to do anything to undermine the buildings. But at the same time, address the sediment that's getting into the stream sooner, and then take it from that piece on down. So he's working, the engineering team, I say it's a he, that's who I work with, but they're working on coming up with a plan to do that and address the stream through Greer Park. When they do that, then we'll take the dollars that we have that can't be spent for that, but can be spent for the pond. I say pond, it's a fishing area, and the boardwalk will address those and that at all at the same time. And so I hope the plan is done soon, because we need to spend the dollars before the end of 2024. And so we've got to get everything done this year so we can get all the construction done next year, if that makes sense.
So just to bring it back to Pete's point, the money that would go towards deterring the geese from Greer is kind of bundled in with.
So what I would think is here, when the design of the body of water that's going to be sitting there, I'm going to call it the body of water. Some people argue it's not big enough to be a pond, whatever you want to call it, what's going to be there. The whole idea was the design around it, and the reason for the boardwalk and everything was so that there would be tall grasses, and the tall grasses actually deter the geese from being able to get to the pond. Is that, I hope I'm saying that right.
They fly in this way, and they won't be able to fly in.
They would not be able to fly into it. First of all, it's going to be smaller. And secondly, it would be in such a way that the tall grasses would discourage them from doing that. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do something this year to try to keep the park usable. But I know George's team has on multiple occasions gone out and planted and tried to get the tall grasses to grow. And we have some residents who enjoy going ahead and knocking the tall grasses down so they can get to the body of water. And that actually causes the problem. And so that's part of the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, for items to end into next agenda, how do I request new items to be added? Do I request it now, or do I talk to
You
one
can
of
either
you?
just do it now, or we can add it during the month, and Steve will add it on before you post the agenda. Is there something you want to?
I wanted to maybe add to the agenda, perhaps a little more signage for the nature trail at Drexel Lodge Park. I really didn't know that was there until a few months ago. Before I joined your committee, I borrowed a neighborhood little boy who's like 9, and we went and visited every park together, and he gave me his reviews and everything, and that's when I found it. I didn't even know it was there. And I'm pretty good at reading our publications and, utilizing our website. So that would be nice, because I kind of think it's exciting, and he was just thrilled with it. So I just don't know that enough people know about it. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit, what some solutions might be.
Does that cross over to Greenways and Trails Committee?
Oh, does it? Okay.
I think that's a good point. And I know George can talk about this. They're working on that.
Okay.
Some signage issues,
Okay, great.
not specifically at that location,
Okay.
but I think it could easily, once they get the format done, it could easily carry over anywhere in the township that we want to do that.
Okay, great. And the other thing that maybe I could talk to you guys about or add to the agenda is, how do we go about seeing if there's any money in the budget? We're talking about adding not big pieces of equipment, playground equipment, but maybe some smaller things that might be interesting in a few places. I don't know what the process for that is.
So there is a budgeting process
Okay.
that we go through every year. So we normally discuss anything we want to do during the year, and then at some point, I think it's July or August, and we go out the forms, send them in, and it'll get presented to the supervisors, included in the budget,
Okay.
depending on how much it is.
Okay.
Some of the smaller stuff, we can work out and just do a presentation during the year and ask it, recommend it to the supervisors and ask if they'll fund it.
Yeah, because some of the smaller things I think add interest to the park without adding a huge structure. I mean, kids just like to run around among things. They like to run around among other children. So little things that might draw more kids and just give it more interest might be fun if we can do it. So being new, I'm just kind of curious how that worked.
If you have anything specific, we'll add it to the agenda as we go through the year here, and
I'll go revisit.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was hoping George would go ahead. Do you want to go ahead and jump on?
Yeah,
I just wanted to say, first of all, George and his team looked at a lot of things, and one of those was the whole issue of our playgrounds. And that we have, we've had some we've had to take out because they were no longer safe. And that's always a big challenge. We don't like doing that if we don't have to, because we understand that kids like to play on playgrounds. And in that process, we set aside $75,000 to replace the playground at Greer Park over several years. And then George came back in this last budget cycle and said, we need to really have that kind of money set aside for all of our parks on a regular basis, because these playgrounds, they're always having to be adapted. And, the ADA accessibility changes, the safety of these playgrounds change. We had some, and I think some of them are still in, but you have some of those really old things that are at the parks, those little rocker back and forth things and some of those kind of things. Some of those things are really no longer listed on the level of safe. And so, we want to obviously update those and get those set. That was one of the reasons why we did master plans at some of these parks, was to really say, here's what we would like to see at those type of parks. And that's why we did that at Greer. But there's $25,000 that was set aside this year for park equipment. And we want to grow that. We think it needs to be somewhere around $75,000 to $100,000 a year to keep our park equipment updated and current. You all have commented on the wonderful red slides that look like they've been around for 30 years because they, some of them have been around for 30 years, but they fade over time. And so, what do we do to keep those looking nice and those kind of things? And the township really has never set those kind of top dollars aside, but George and his team have really said we need to be setting those monies aside. I think part of that was at your direction. And so we put that into the budget for 2023 with the idea that we would grow that over the next several years to be that number, so that we would have the dollars as needed. You'll be able to say, we've got $100,000 that we need to go replace this playground, or you want to put the shades on, or whatever it is you want to do. That money's there because we planned for it ahead of time, so that when we get to it, we just go do it. And that's the plan.
Thank you.
I have, I just like to put on for next time to revisit the location of a pickleball court or two. I like the idea of Drexel Lodge, and I think we need to talk about that a little more.
Great.
We should probably put on the agenda, the May 6th event.
Right.
If there's any
Right.
detail. And then the April Newby Park. I'll have should have updates. Yeah, by then.
And we'll have to make presentations at the,
The VOS for the
yes.
March meeting, yeah.
So I guess we're adjourned.
Oh, we have to ask if we should adjourn.
Did we adjourn? Yes.
Yes.
I second it.